How many of you have some physical characteristic that you're just not that crazy about? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, and guests, as difficult as it is to believe, I am not perfect either. I have a physical characteristic I'm not that crazy about, and that's my nose. It is rather large. As I was looking at some family photographs recently, I noticed that they all had large noses too. So truly, big noses run in my family. I guess you could even say they gallop. My parents always told me that I had a Roman nose, which was a symbol of power and wealth, and I should be proud of it. But I didn't believe them. I just felt as though I was some long-lost descendant of Cyrano de Bergerac. Growing up was no pleasant experience either. It wasn't easy living with a nose that caught every germ that was going around. Because of its size, it would take in a greater volume of air, and so the chances that I would get sick would be greatly increased. Walking in the rain with an umbrella did no good either, as the tip of my nose would get wet anyway. My nose certainly gave me my share of problems. It seemed to always be itching for a fight, and usually bloody once I found one. My early education suffered as well. I can still remember my first grade teacher, Sister Mary Diphtheria, telling us, keep your noses in those books. Now, one of the wonderful things of being a 6-year-old is that you live in a literal world. You do not understand nuance. So, when your teacher tells you, keep your nose in the book, what did I do? Blah, 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 blah. Now, I may have only been 6, but I pretty quickly learned about nuance and pretty much figured out that I wasn't going to learn much of anything using this technique. As I got a bit older, say into my early teen years, my highly nuanced nose started sticking itself in other types of literature. Now guys, you know the type of literature I'm referring to. The type of literature that your buddy's dad always seemed to have stacks of hidden under a bed or in a closet. In spite of my best efforts to walk away, my nose would just keep pulling me back towards those things like steel to a magnet. After a while, my nose wouldn't even consider looking at other types of literature. Then I finally had to face the cold, hard truth that I had a socially deviated septum. Things didn't get any better when people started calling me Eagle Beak. But when they began to walk beside me to keep the sun out of their eyes, well, that was the last straw. I knew that if I didn't look at my nose from a different angle, we would never see eye to eye. So what could I do? Well, what would you do? Well, the first thing I did was to stop talking negatively about it. I quit accusing it of only working around skunks and sauerkraut factories. Gradually, I even began to give it minor praise in front of others. Then, as we got a bit closer, we even had our picture taken together a few times, and on occasion, were even seen in public. Second, I built up its confidence by only standing next to things which had bigger noses, like airplanes and Mount Rushmore. Next, I only subjected it to the loveliest fragrances in the world to make it think it was giving me pleasure. By making it feel important like this, then we were able to strengthen our relationship. And fourth, like any good friends, we would occasionally go out drinking together. And at times, when I felt happy, while enthusiastically quaffing a mug of beer, I would wet the tip of my nose to keep it happy as well. And at times, it would get a bit too happy and start to revert to its misspent childhood and start looking for trouble. But I always protected it by keeping it out of other people's business. Knowing that I would risk life and limb to save my nose strengthened our relationship. And lastly, I started to consider all the things that my nose does for me and where I would be without it. For one thing, the nose is nature's way of ventilating the head. Also, if it weren't for my nose, I'd have a rather unsightly hole in the center of my face. And can you imagine what ungodly mess I would make when sneezing without a nose? How in the world could I be expected to blow my nose if I haven't got one? All these efforts have given me a new outlook on my life and on my nose. I've become very proud of my nose, and I'm pleased to say that despite our quarrelsome past, we're now inseparable. Yes, big noses run in my family, but thanks to my efforts, the fact I've become very proud of them. And if any of you has a physical characteristic that you're not that crazy about, I'd urge you, try something similar to what I tried. It might just work for you too, because truly, one never knows.